We continue our journey through the weaves of India. Last time we spoke about Maheshwaris, which come from the town of Maheshwar in Madhya Pradesh. This time we'll talk you through about the Kota Doria, which comes from the city Kota in Rajasthan. Kota is a town which is on the banks of river Chambal, as you might be aware, and just like it's one of the largest towns in Rajasthan, and just like any other town, the culture and the history and the architecture, all of it comes together and creates a beautiful confluence which also gets reflected in the textiles of that region. Kota Doria again has a similar story. It's a very distinct formation. So it's actually an interplay of the cotton and silk yarn in a sort of a sequential way where there are 6 yarns of cotton, then 2 yarns of silk, 2 yarns of cotton, again 2 yarns of silk, and then closing the box with another 6 yarns of cotton. And this happens both in the warp and the weft, and therefore it creates a check formation. That makes it extremely recognizable as a distinct Kota weave. The way it comes into its formation is because of the hot climates that Rajasthan has always had, and therefore in response to that, it is just how this whole fine checkered pattern and a mix of the cotton and silk emerged, because it was the need that led to this beautiful creation. And this is what happens in most of the crafts that I have come across, because they are just very indigenously created from local material, from local needs, and therefore emerge as something which is a response to what that culture really demands. My intervention in Kota started on a very beautiful note, because Rajasthan government about 7 years back came up with this initiative called the Rajasthan Heritage Week, where it invited people to come and work with the craft sector and actually create pieces so that they could be showcased in a week-long event. I did a couple of travels to the Khaitun village, which is where the Kota is made, which sits within the Kota. So as I engaged with the weavers there, I learned more and more about how passionate they are about this and how they want to continue to keep the heritage of Kota weaves alive, and how they are very, very particular about its authenticity as well. So this is one of the rare saris where it is still, even today, not almost to the extent of not allowed to use a non-pure zari. So all the Kota that comes out is of course 100% hand woven, and it comes in zari yarn, which is with almost a purity of about 30 to 35% of silver with gold polish. And it is just something which the weavers of that region don't practice and encourage to use a non-pure zari form, which makes the sari all the more precious. It is also one of those really distinct crafts which still exist and practice the original Jala Naka technique, which has been lost over a period of time, and more of the saris are now being woven with the use of jacquard and dobby, whereas here the weavers actually still use what is called a tilli or a sirki, and each of the motif is individually created on the loom with this needle-like structure, and therefore the craft is that much more precious, and I would say that much more handcrafted. So when I started to work, without really challenging what is already in the market, I wanted to create something which is more distinct, more subtle, more sophisticated, or the word that comes to my mind is Sofiana. So something which just actually becomes a rather more kind of representation of what it always was for me and for the royalty. Without really distorting the original look and feel of a Kota sari or the stamp or the signature that it is known for, I've tried to infuse certain softer elements to just give a little bit more flavor and bring it back to its original subtlety. So for example, patterns like the topteni and the temple borders, which have been very popular in the western part of India, I've tried to infuse that into a Kota sari. Some color blocked mulberry silk borders, so that gives it a little slightly more modern contemporary feel. or even a Mubagam style, which is very popular in the south of India, and bringing it here as a language so that there is a bit of a confluence of cultures without really taking away from the original signature of a Kota sari. I think there is a version which is obviously being made in power loom as well, but I think the entire fluidity that comes with handloom when these yarns are interplaced is something which again I think is very distinctly clear to anybody who has really experienced Kota and felt it. So just as in any other craft form, yes, there is a competition from the power loom sector which is much more cheaper, but I would truly believe and would like you to appreciate the beauty of it in a handloom, which can never be replicated in a machine formation. Organic creations are most cherished, and this particular sari was thought of when I was having tea with one of my weavers in Kota in Diggi Palace in Jaipur, and I just pointed at one of the frescoes and said that why could this not become a delightful palla. And the weaver took it as a challenge, and he took a photograph of it, and he said that I'm going to create a graph for you and I will translate it into the sari. And his whole enthusiasm resulted in this beautiful piece. Kota is an extremely versatile fabric, and I think it lends itself beautifully whether in the softer pastels or even in deep dark colors. Even the fabric is extremely versatile, and it's used to actually decorate it with embroideries such as chikankari or even mirror work, because I think the sheerness of the fabric is wonderfully complemented by certain surface treatments, and it therefore becomes a popular fabric across India.